What up, guys? We're back with another series of walkthroughs for Dragonflight Season 2 this time. I'm doing this a little bit late. Usually I do it before the season, but I decided to just hop in and do it a little bit into the season this time because I haven't done it yet. And it might be beneficial because I'm doing 23s at this point, 24s, 23s, instead of the usual like plus 16s on PTR. I think I'll actually have more insight, but it is a little bit later for, I think, what most people would prefer. So let me know what you think about these in the comments. This is a Neltharus 23. This is season 2, like I said, there's no seasonal affix this time around. This is the first time in a long time. And this is a Tyrannical 23. This is my first pull. I like to pull everything over here into this hallway because of this patrol that I just pulled from over here this direction. It kind of walks down here and then over into the pole, pretty much regardless of what you do, unless you want to pull that pole super far back. And the other reason I like to include this patrol is because there's only one thaumaturge total on this pole. This guy right here, he's the only one marked with star. I'll also put the auto marker in the comments as well that I use. I always use an auto marker every season, and I try to upload it when I can. But these thaumaturges are the only important mobs in this whole area that you have to really worry about as far as stops and kicks. So this first pull, there's only one, and that's on purpose, because you only ever want one thaumaturge in a pull that involves these ore elementals that are also on the pull. So you see these kind of low health guys, they're about to die. These ore elementals allow the thaumaturge that we just talked about to cast the molten core ability. And if you've been in pug keys where you suddenly just die on these packs, that's because molten core got off. So as long as there's one ore LE in the pull period or more, then they will spam cast molten core until the elementals die. That is the gist of this pull. So this next pull, I kind of set it up to where I don't pull any ore elementals. I got rid of the patrol because of that very reason. And you can do a bunch of different mobs in this area, but as long as you adhere to the rule of do not pull thaumaturges with ore elementals, and if you do, only pull one. So pull these back to avoid the patrol of the elementals. This pull has two thaumaturges. They both get marked with star and diamond there. And all we have to deal with on this pull is stopping their magma conflagration ability. They should never cast molten core. So there he goes. That ability just targets a random player and it does pretty heavy magic damage. So you just want to interrupt it with something like Hammer of Justice, which I use there. Stuns, knocks, disorients, all work. The other mobs that were in the first pull that are dangerous for the tank at least are called the Wardens. They're the guys that do Blazing Slash. You might remember mobs like that from like Temple of the Jade Serpent from last season. They're very similar. The only difference is you can't actually stop them. In the back there, you see the new affix called Incorporeal going on. They spawned really far away because someone was back here. There's players back here, so they spawn around them somewhere. So I didn't even know they were there. But hopefully my group is dealing with them. Looks like one of them was already dealt with Sleepwalk, I think is that icon from the Evokers. They have a CC for them. Every class now also has a way to deal with them. You just have to talent into the CC that can actually do it. This is typically not a great tank job either. Okay, so this is the third pull I'm doing currently in Neltharus. Now keep in mind a lot of these pulls you can kind of trade off for better count pulls if you have, let's say, a rogue for some skips. But this is another good pull because you could pull this group of elementals into this pack because this pack only has one thaumaturge star right here. So back to this guy, you'll see that he'll start casting Molten Core because there's elementals in the pull. There it is right there. Everyone's kind of watching him and kicking him and stopping him. Everything else is easy. Corporeal gets turned evil right there. I actually cast on it in this case. It's kind of dangerous for the tank to cast. If you're a tank with an instant CC like Monk, that's totally fine, but casting something like Turn Evil is pretty dangerous because you cannot parry or dodge while you cast as a tank. So keep that in mind. It's a good backup, but typically this affix is dealt with by DPS and healers. So that was the third pull. This area is not too bad on Tyrannical, except for the Wardens. The Blazing Slash will absolutely beat your ass. And we're to the first boss, Magmatusk. This guy is kind of a crazy boss, to be honest. I'm sure there will be some nerf passes on him throughout the season. I like to pull him starting to the middle of the room here. There's a couple of strategy ideas that people can do, and it's all about baiting his charges toward a wall that's kind of far away. You never want to like hold him right next to a wall because let's say if you had him here and you bait him to this wall, then all the waves would instantly spawn right here and just murder the group. So you kind of have to like keep him in the center here and bait him kind of far over there so that people have time to dodge the waves that come out right after and sidestep them. It creates gaps the farther you are away. The start of this boss isn't too bad. It kind of ramps up based on his stacks here. He starts with 2 stacks, and every stack he gets makes his volatile mutation cast that's coming up here put a longer dot on the group. So there's the first charge. You put some waves out. You want to kite him back to the middle of the room-ish without putting him in puddles as best you can. It's easy at first, like I said, but it gets pretty difficult as the fight goes on. He also spawns random puddles around the room. And this is the part where I think they should change it. Because a lot of times he can kind of buff himself mid-cast. And if he's ever buffed while a dot is on the group, then the dot will deal like, I think, double damage in that moment. And it's really, really bad. So there's kind of just a chance that he just kills your group. You saw a random puddle just spawn right there. Another one spawning right here. Volatile mutation right here. So this one with 4 stacks. You just got the 4 stacks on my UI right there. Now the group is taking like 14-second long dots, and this is the hard part of the fight, and the part that I think will get nerfed eventually too. You can see that dot is just trucking the group. And if he was ever in a puddle during one of those dot ticks, then people are gonna die. He also does that lava spray to random player. The animation is a little bit late, so you kind of have to watch your target to target and spread out accordingly, and then bait his charge based on where you want to go. So we actually don't really have a great strategy for this boss yet in my groups I'm playing with. I think eventually what's going to happen is like maybe I'll start the boss here, let's say. Let's pause the video here, and I kind of want to take the boss in like an arc around the room because you could maybe start the boss here, right? And then face his first charge there. And then kind of do the second charge there, and then like rotate in a circle like this to always have a free space to pull him after the charge so that he doesn't get buffed by his own puddles. The problem is the RNG puddles kind of make this difficult. But I think this is my general idea and what I'm going to try to do as a strategy. And then that way, when you get back to this spot, you can kind of start over because this spot will be clear. These puddles do despawn eventually. So like, let's say when you get to this point in the rotation, I think the first puddles will start to disappear. But yeah, this guy's a very hard boss. Make sure you have Lust and all CDs on pull so you can do as much damage as you can before things get crazy. On Fortified, you may not need Lust, but it might even still be worth holding Lust. But yeah, let's see how the rest of this boss plays out. Also of note, there is some cheese with this boss right now. I think this will get fixed, so I'm hesitant to talk about it, but there's an achievement item on this table under my frames right here. If you pick it up and throw it at the boss during his very first lava spray cast up there, then he will stop at 2 stacks permanently. And the stacks are the problem of the fight, like we said, so. Right now that is possible, but I would not count on that being the same forever. And we did not know about this in this video, so we actually did the fight for real too. You can see I'm trying to like hurry and pull him out of the pools that he's creating right before he casts Volatile Mutation. Or basically before he casts anything, because no matter what, if he's in a pool at any given time and people have a dot, then it's probably just over. Here, I bait the lava spray away from the group. I saw that it was on me in time, luckily. And we are going to barely scrape by killing this boss on plus 23. Boss is nuts, man. Alright, so now we're moving on. This is the second area of trash. You can go to this boss second if you like, but I think it's probably good to go first because of lust. You want to lust it and use all CDs. People can concentrate on getting that out of the way early in the key. So now you cross this area and you can use like slow fall, or I get gripped here to speed it up a little bit. You can use the parasol item from Shadowlands to float across that if you have any kind of speed as well. But here's the second area of trash. So these phoenixes are pretty easy. They don't do much. You just tag them for some free count. They're not worth a ton of count, but they are free. These hunters, on the other hand, are the hard mobs in this area. Flashy hunters. There's 2 in this pull, and I don't think you want to pull more than 2 at a time, really, ever. Because they do this, like, jumping bleed. They just bled the Tolvoker over here, but he removed his own bleed with Cauterize. You can see that went on cooldown on my UI. And then we also pull in this Overseer Lahar. This guy's pretty easy. He's worth a ton of count. You should probably always pull him in any route. The other thing the hunters do are these spears. You just sidestep them. They don't go on tank. They go on random players, though. And just cleave them down. You can see these bleeds doing some pretty good damage. So that one got cauterized, and then the third one got Blessing of Protection. Popped. After this, we're going to get into a way to kind of cheese this area a little bit. And this is probably going to become more popular as the season goes on. I'm sure more groups will do this consistently. But there's chains in this area that you can snap on mobs that deal quite a bit of damage. But the only downside is that the chains also deal damage to the players around the area that they snapped in, and also the player that picked up the chain gets hurt no matter what, and they get a debuff that makes them not pick up the chain again for like 3 minutes, I think. So I'm doing a pretty big pull here, and I'm going to use this chain right here once I get everything set up. And these are like all over this area. Keep an eye out and you'll see a bunch. But I'm just getting thrown on everything, and then because I'm a paladin, I can actually do this a couple times in a row, which is extremely powerful. So I just picked up a chain. I popped bubble. I have 7 seconds of bubble. And I'm going to drag the chain. You can see the debuff on my UI right here as well. I'm going to drag the chain through the pack because I think you have to like do some kind of distance to break the chain. So it broke right there. So it broke about that distance wide from the chain item. And if we back it up, let's see how much damage it did. Pick up the chain. Looks like it did like 20% of everything's health. And it puts a short debuff on them too. If you see this debuff. It does a ton of damage. So I pick it up again because I'm a paladin and I have bubble. Just did it again. That time it looked like it did like 30% of their health. And then I did it one more time. It looks like it instantly blew up. It's very finicky. I'm actually like doing research on this as we speak as I'm making this video because I'm not exactly sure how they work. Let's see, I pick it up a third time right here. I don't have bubble anymore. And it looks like it just instantly explodes for no reason. Like I didn't have to travel at all, it just instantly exploded. So that's the power of those chains. It's extremely powerful if you have paladins. I think hunters might be able to do the same thing. I don't know if they can pick it up multiple times in a row, because what's supposed to happen is you get this debuff up here that makes you not able to do it for 3 minutes. But paladins can do it because of bubble. So maybe turtle works. So we're gonna do it here. I happen to have a second paladin in the group, Ret Pally. So he's gonna do it with his bubble now. This is another chain right here. You can see him just getting absolutely trucked. One of the hunters jumped out at the wrong moment, unfortunately, but it's all good. So he just did it 2 times, and I kind of sit out of the way. Let's see if I even took damage, actually. So it looks like he is going out this direction, and I'm about this far away from the chain. And I don't think I get hit by it. I might have. Actually, I did get hit by it. I got the debuff there. Like a volcanic. There's like a nuclear explosion debuff icon. So yeah, it looks like it's pretty hard to avoid as a tank if other people do it too, but it's definitely worth it if you have some kind of defensive rolling. I would just pop something if someone in your group's doing it. And it is big damn. Looks like it does like 20 to 35% of the mob's health per explosion too. I'm sure we will learn more about these chains as we go. These things are crazy. This is the Chargath boss. Honestly, there's not too much to talk about from a tank perspective. The first part of the fight's pretty simple. He just charges the people, does Dragon Strike, puts a bleed on him. Looks like you can remove that bleed as well. So this is the important part of the fight. He's going to put 3 spears on people. You can see the DPS kind of spreading around the boss. This is a really good idea. Kind of forming a triangle around the boss. You spread them out. They take some damage from these spears. They need to pop something, obviously. Arrow over your head, you pop something for a mechanic like that. And then the goal is to drag 2 chains into the boss, like form a cross as soon as you can to break 2 before he jumps at the tank with fiery focus right after. And then you wait till the debuff falls off, and then you break the 3rd chain after that. So there's 2 immediately. Both DPS dragged him over. And then now he's going to jump at me with fiery focus. I get away from the DPS. And then the debuff is gone now, so I drag him over this 3rd chain right there. Now the boss is taking double damage for, I want to say, like 6 or 7 seconds. This is a really good opportunity to use things. It's not double damage, actually. It's 50% more damage. But it's a really good opportunity to use things like the beacon from the trinket beacon from Sargha. Very huge amount of damage that can be amplified. There's a lot of short burst windows like that this season. And back to the start of the fight. You just dodge Magma Wave. The DPS gets bled. And then here's Grounding Spear again. The 2 people are going to break insta. Boom, boom. Gives the healer something to do for a little bit, and then you drag him over to this 3rd chain, and then you do some damage. Rinse and repeat. This is one of the easier bosses in here. It's probably the easiest boss if you do it correctly, so we don't really need Lust here. But I would suggest definitely lusting Magmatusk. Maybe lusting Forgemaster, the 3rd boss. He's a pretty hard healing check, and then the last boss if possible. And there's I think we might have lusted Trash as our 2nd lust though. Okay, so this fight is largely the same. I'm going to speed it up a little bit. One more burn there. So I think we had 3 burns total on this 23. This is the same trash as before the boss. So the hunters are the ones you have to worry about. The bone tenders here also do this bone toss ability, which is some group damage that you should consider as well when making pulls. So you just did like a little chunk of Natalie's health there. Not too bad though. This pull I like to group up and tag. I asked somebody to get these far phoenixes off the screen here because you'll see why in a minute, but it just creates a path to the next pull a lot easier without having to fight something. So I get this whole room plus these 3 phoenixes into this pull, and also we're going to use this chain right here. Our bubbles are both up, so I think me and the Rep Pally are both doing it. We snapped 2 chains in a row. Looks like the priest was too close, so he got one shot by the chain breaking. But also so did the mobs, so it's still worth. And we basically just one-shot the entire pull by using these chains. I did 3, and the Rep Pally did 2. What I've been doing is I pick up the chain and then I bubble, like right after I pick it up. I don't know if that. We're gonna wait for Master Res here. And this is why I cleared the phoenixes out. So there's 3 phoenixes that are right here in this little area. And if you clear them out early, you can just do this all in one pull and then run by the sleeping dude on the stairs. He's a hunter, so you definitely don't want to pull him if you can help it. This is an extremely long run. I also forgot to mention, We'll come back to there in a second. But at this point, after this pull, if you have cooking, you should go over to this pot. If you have 25 cooking or more on any player, go over and activate this cooking pot, and then everybody in the group will get a out of combat movement speed ability, which is really useful for literally this next segment, which is running up these stairs that take forever. We didn't do it in this video because we're noobs. Yeah, walking up these stairs takes so long. Okay, so you walk up to the top of the stairs and you can pull these two groups together. The dangerous part here is these melt casts that the lava flares do. I haven't been auto marking these because I think there's just a bunch. Like if you have kicks up, you should probably just send them. It might be the case that on fortified you don't want to pull more than 2 lava flares at a time, but this pull being right here kind of makes it hard to not do that, I would say. Although if you have a rogue, it might be worth shrouding this pull. The lava barriers just do stuff that you want to dodge. This 5-pack has a bunch of stuff that we can talk about too. We talked about the lava flares. You just kick those when you have abilities to do so. These bone splitter mobs do a move called Dragon Bone Axe that you just saw there. I have a sound attached to these on my UI so that I know, and you can stop their casts. These are both like bleed casts on random party members. So if you use any kind of stop, then they will not cast. So I used Blinding Light there to stop both their casts. The Iron Torch, Colossi Iron Torch does a Mote of Combustion cast. If that goes off, it's totally fine. It just needs to be dispelled. It's kind of like a living bomb kind of mechanic. So you can focus all your casts or all your interrupts on the melt casts instead. Stop melt, stop Dragon Bone Axe, and this pack is pretty free. There's Mote of Combustion. See, it went out on the rep pally there and it got dispelled. No problem. This next pull is kind of up for debate whether it's worth or not. I personally think it's pretty worth. This Iron Torch commander only has, let's look at the health numbers here. He has 16 million health, but he's worth like 30 count, which is a lot of count. Like 5% count by himself. So I typically pull him with like 2 lava flares and these 2 lava bears who have, see if I target them. I think they have just barely lower health than the actual commander does. Yeah, they had like 12 million health. So 12 million health compared to 16 million health is really not that much different. He has like 25% more health than they do. And this whole pull together is 12.5% count. Like that's a pretty nice efficient pull. I'll talk more about this later because there's some other pulls that I didn't do in this ski that I will probably start doing going forward too. Like let's say, you know, this pull is 12%. Some of the pulls before this were only like 4%, 5%. If you can skip some of those pulls and instead do higher value pulls, then your dungeon will be faster overall. So I chain these mobs into these 2 lava flares plus iron torches and a blacksmith. That's a new mob. The blacksmith is kind of a danger mob, for the tank especially. The forge stomp does some AoE damage. Doesn't do a ton, but then this reverberating slam just went on me. And you can see this debuff on my frames there and up here. That thing ticks for a lot of damage every few seconds. I'm kind of making my DPS play in this fire here. Kind of fun. So I'm heading this direction toward the Forgemaster boss. Here's another reverberating slam on me. Now, Protection Paladin's pretty strong, so you can't see it ticking very hard. But let's say if you play a paper tank like Brewmaster or Blood Death Knight, you're gonna feel those ticks pretty hard. And it's good to be aware of those. And especially the pull after this one, I'll be fighting 2 blacksmiths, and that's where it starts to hurt. Let's skip ahead just a little bit because these are the same kind of mobs. This last pull that I did just here as well is another good candidate for a skip if you have a good way of doing it. Like, let's say you have a warlock in the group, you can put a gate down to the boss area, and you can take the gate back up without having to pull this pack. Or if you have a rogue, you could shroud it after the boss. Either way. We're finishing off this lava bear. And then what we're going to do is drop down into this boss area and pull both these packs together. Now, once again, this is another 4 lava flare pull. I don't know if this is going to fly in high fortified keys or not. Tyrannical, I think it's just fine, but especially with a really difficult healing boss right after this, it might not be the move. Now, the problem for tanks is these blacksmiths doing double reverberating slam, and they do stack for a little bit. But they tick individually, I think. So here's another dot stack going on me now. But I am just fine because I am a paladin. Sentinel alone is enough to deal with that. Alright, so this is a pretty hard boss. I like to make sure my healer has full mana. He still has full mana, so we're good to go. Looks like we did Lust Trash about 5 minutes ago, so we do not have Lust. I would suggest having Lust, though, in a put-together group of any kind. He does big group damage like 5 seconds in. He does this Aegis cast. The only counter for that Aegis cast, which is probably the most dangerous part of the fight, is if someone has a Vanish or Night Elf, Invis, Bane kind of ability. If they're the target, the first target of the Aegis throw, then they can prevent the damage on the group by pressing one of their Vanish abilities at the right time. That's really the only counterplay. Otherwise, you just gotta heal this boss. A lot of healing required. Here's the Aegis cast right now. So we just melded it there. I think that was an example. Let's see who it was on. He was on Natalea. He pressed meld. People still have these circles out here, but they are not taking damage at all because it didn't go out. Heated swings on the tank. Just make sure you have some mitigation up. It really doesn't do too much damage. This is a pretty easy tank fight, to be honest. I like to just get knocked to one location, drag him back to the middle, and then get knocked to the same location over and over again. Rinse and repeat. I think the only dangerous part is if you have something like the Entangling Affix at the same time. Just make sure you have some kind of movement ability going on to get you out of the circle a little bit faster than you would normally. Your seated swings. No problem. Drag him back to the middle for optimal melee uptime. I think on this next Aegis, I'm going to try using spell warding on the targeted player too, just to see if that works to cancel the combo. I don't think it does. I think it just cancels the damage on the one player. And yeah, it looks like only 2 players got the dot. And there you have it. That's the Forgemaster boss. Let's speed it up a little bit because that is the same otherwise. About 100k HPS fight on 23. So right here, we're going to see if we could rescue up to the stairs. I think you can Warlock Gate, but you cannot rescue because there's no path available. But since we had 2 Evokers and a Priest, we were going to like rescue, grip everybody up. Too bad that didn't work. This is another good spot for using the Paracel umbrella from Shadowlands. You want to have some kind of movement speed. I think I use it here maybe. If I remember. Yeah, here it is. So if you have some kind of movement speed coming out of this, you should be able to float and turn and not take any fall damage. That's a toy that you can find in Shadowlands. Just Google it. It's pretty easy to find. You just go and pick it up in the world. These pulls are pretty hard. So these wardens are some of those same mobs in the very first pull of the dungeon. And these are the bane of your existence as a tank. They're Temple of the Jade Serpent mobs, but you can't even stop them. You can't use stuns, nothing. You just gotta tank the damage. The bird also does some ticking AoE damage on the groups, so your healer is distracted and not able to heal the tank. There's another Blazing Slash. Make sure you have something rolling pretty much at all times on these poles, especially if there's more than one Warden. And there typically is. I expect these will get nerfed a little bit at some point in the season. Here's another new mob, the Lavamancer I'm chaining in here. These guys are worth a ton of count. The Lavamancers are actually really efficient mobs. And that is one reason why, if you can do more pulls in this last area, I actually think you should. And skip more earlier, because these pulls are worth a ton of count. Like you can see on my UI here, this pull is currently going to add 8% to the count. Whereas the typical pull, like we talked about earlier, is like 4 or 5% in this dungeon. As long as you're able to live these wardens, it's definitely the move. I also recommend for mobs like these wardens is using a weak aura that tracks their spell cooldowns on their nameplates, and that's by Relo. I will also put a link to that in this video. So I'll put my auto marker and a link to that in the video for anyone interested. So I chain these into the bird because I'm a strong prop paladin. There's like 3 wardens beating my ass right now. No problem. So this is our last pull. This is the route that I did at this point, but now going forward, what I want to do is after this bird dies, I think I'll probably be able to show you with the camera. But the pulls to the left and right of the last boss actually have a ton of count. They're like 8% pulls each, and they're 2 Lavamancers, which are pretty free mobs, honestly. You just pick up threat on the lava spawns. That's it. And then some of these wardens as well in the pulls. I suspect it'll become the meta strategy, but you can kind of see it off to the left here. These pulls over here, this pull has like 3 wardens and 1 Lavamancer, so that's not as good. But this side over here, to the left of the boss, if you're coming into the area from the entrance, that side has 2 Lavamancers and 2 wardens, and that is a really good pull. I would suggest doing that if you can fit it in. And that's it for the last area of trash. This is the last boss, Warlord Sargha. The thing to know here is that you should have some way of seeing party members' items. So I use a weak aura for that as well. I can upload that too. You can see the 2 people picked up treasures here, 3 already. Everyone kind of instantly enters combat. Within 10 seconds, you're already picking up some treasures for the first magma shield coming up in 25 seconds. As long as you have 4 items total, then you are good for the shield. You can pick these up. You can actually move and cast while you pick them up. And you can pick up more than 1 item at a time. So typically I'll go and pick up 2 as the tank, but since we already have 4, I only picked up 1. Managing these curse stacks that do taking damage is pretty important too. So alright, so we're throwing our items. Unfortunately, one of our item holders died. So I go to pick up this last item, but I think we end up breaking the shield anyway. You can see me picking it up while I'm like strafing around, dodging puddles. You can move while you pick them up. And we made it through it, luckily. We get them up. And now we just rinse and repeat. So the next shield is in 30 seconds. Is that right? That doesn't seem right. These phases always seem like they go really fast for me. There's so much running around. So yeah, we have 4 items right now. We should be good. He summons an ad with this Dragon's Kiln move. You want to stun the ad, keep it near the boss for some easy cleave if you can. And the shield is here in 3 seconds. So yeah, I guess that timer was right. You can kind of pre-cast the items as soon as the shield is about to go up. The one item that's the hardest to use is the rock item that makes you charge at the boss. And you should kind of read your tooltip if you're not familiar with the items before you have to use them. Like you go pick up your gold, you read the tooltip real quick, and you're like, oh, this is the one I have to throw at the boss, or oh, this is the one that makes me charge at the boss. And that's really important to know before you have to use them. You can see me having to run really, really far here to get my item. We have 5 going into this next shield. And honestly, this fight really doesn't have too bad of a healing requirement. Hasty's only doing 70k here, compared to some fights where you need like literally 150, 170k HPS to do this season so far. So that was an example of the charge item. So I saw that I had this icon, which is the charge one. So what I did is he's doing the shield now, and I instantly started casting it like right at the end of his shield. Boom, I got it out of the way, and I'm able to just dodge these swirlies pretty easily now. So that shield we did really well on. We removed it basically instantly. People are already picking up new items. Honestly, they probably should wait to pick up items because the boss does take double damage while he's stunned there for a few seconds. So you want to get out as much output as you can in that little window and then go pick up new items after. Now we have like 8 items somehow. 7? I can't count. You see us stun the ad there next to the boss for some simplified cleave. And here's another shield. Recast some items if you have them. You can see someone walking the AoE around you item, the flowers, into melee there. And we are golden. Here he's taking double damage again for another 5-6 seconds. That's another very good opportunity to use stuff like the beacon trinket, anything that does burst damage. Very good this season. And that's it. That's Neltharus. I even got a Forge Storm out of this run. That was pretty hype. Yeah, let me know what you guys think about this kind of format after the season starts. So this is the first time again, like I said, that I'm doing these walkthroughs after it starts on 23s, 24s instead of like on 16s. I'll probably just hit the hardest dungeons for now and see what people think. I know a lot of people have wanted to see the tricks and tips for Neltharus, so let me know what you thought. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next one.